Today, as I sign the North American Free Trade Agreement into law, I believe we have found our footing.
The evidence speaks for itself. It's win-win on both sides.
And Republicans teamed up with President Clinton to pass NAFTA. But look, after 20 years, we now have the proof that the playing field is not level.
The normalization of trade relationships ultimately not only eviscerated America's industrial base and, of course, wreaked havoc amongst working class communities in the United States, but it led to a wholesale transfer of our supply chains, especially some of our most critical supply chains as they relate to rare earth minerals and even a lot of defense technology.
The Chinese call us an enemy, a phrase which Americans may say is just propaganda, but which has great meaning for the Communist Party.
Beijing's industrial influence, economic warfare, national strategy writ large hinges on building asymmetric relationships with the United States.
That's just the way they operate. They'll establish a manufacturing unit, and then they will use that for their own intelligence purposes. They will use that for their own economic purposes that are counter, frankly, to the interests of the United States.
The CCP's dangerous actions, China's multi-pronged assault on our national and economic security, make it the defining threat of our generation.
The threat is not theoretical. Leveraging information from our government and industry partners, CISA teams have found and eradicated Chinese intrusions in multiple critical infrastructure sectors.
Russian hackers, Iranian-backed hackers, might have targeted the water
man
supplies.
Working for North Korea's military intelligence.
60 Minutes got an inside look at how Israel pulled off one of the most daring and sophisticated intelligence operations in history.
Can Chinese-made cameras serve as Beijing's overseas spies? The U.S. warns the answer is yes.
Chinese-made cranes all over the country at U.S. ports are now being compromised by the Chinese Communist Party.
We know that China is using its supply of critical infrastructure to the U.S. to monitor and probably for acts of sabotage, because I'm sure that on the first day of a war, those cranes would not operate because of those modems.
Over the past several decades, China has infiltrated so many parts of our tech ecosystem in ways that I think many voters don't fully realize. And it speaks to the need for Congress and the federal government to realize this is a real threat. This is the next step in the Cold War.
A Chinese automaker has passed Tesla as the world's most popular electric car company.
Now, China's BYD.
BYD surpassed Tesla as the biggest EV maker globally last quarter. We've seen China overtake Japan as the world's biggest car exporter last year.
Trump 2.0 might allow Chinese EVs to build in the U.S.
That's right. You never know with Mr. Trump what you might do, but he has said if the deal makes sense, he may allow Chinese manufacturers to set up factories here in the United States. Why would he do that?
Chinese smart vehicles could potentially gather sensitive data on U.S. citizens and infrastructure and transmit it to China.
Cars that know a driver's location, patterns, connects to their Bluetooth, can even read text messages, and sometimes collect biometric information.
And just like with Huawei, all of these risks are just immediate and undeniable.
We know that China has ripped off IP. That's how they started out. The big pivot has been into our critical infrastructure. They've come for our water networks, they've come for our airports, they've come for our transportation systems, they've come for the grid, and they've come for pipelines. And the thinking is that they want to be there to pre-position.
They have placed Trojan horses in our power grid, in our water system.
I cannot think of like a more fitting Trojan horse to use against America by an adversary than cars.
Tonight, the U.S. raising alarms about Chinese smart cars. Fearful Beijing could use its software to spy on American drivers.
It's like an iPhone on wheels. Imagine a world where there's 3 million Chinese vehicles on the road to America, and Beijing could turn them all off at the same time.